Hello, YouTube. So I just got back from Japan. I was in Japan for 6 weeks. I was studying Japanese in Japan. I had an amazing time. I was in Kyoto and I bought a ton of manga. I bought about 67 volumes. I also got some other books I'm going to show. So that's what this video is going to be about, just showing all the books I got in Japan. I went a little crazy. Basically, everything is in Japanese, so I thought this would make a cool video. The first thing I'm going to show, I'm going to show some regular books first, because I did find a couple English bookstores that, so I bought some English novels. So I'm going to show those first, and then I'm going to show the manga. I did buy a blackjack deck of cards. So I'm going to show these really fast. I thought this was cool. I don't usually play cards, but I don't know. This was just really, really cool just to see. So I thought it would be fun to own. I don't have to show all 52, but each card seems to have a different design and character on it. Here's the back. I've read some of the blackjack manga, not all of it. While I was in Japan, I went to a bookstore and they were selling the entire set of blackjack in Japanese for I think it was 17,000 yen, which is probably $150 or something. I don't know exactly what it translates to, but I had to tell myself not to buy it. I had to hold myself back. It wasn't the money, it was just a space issue. I bought so much manga that I had to buy another suitcase in Japan to bring it all home. So I'm willing to accept that I might have a problem. Okay, so next up I'm going to show next up I have a couple of English books that I bought yesterday in the San Francisco airport. So these aren't from Japan, but it was still, I was coming home from Japan. I was in the San Francisco airport for a 10-hour layover. It was so stupid. But there was a bookstore there and I couldn't help myself. And they had some comics, so I got Batman Hush. I've never read this before. I grabbed this. I've heard good things about it. Jim Lee is an incredible artist. We don't need to talk about that too much. Then I did buy 2 volumes of manga, Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Witch Hat Atelier? I should know how. Okay, whatever. I definitely don't know how to pronounce that word. I have read these 2 volumes, regardless of whether I can pronounce the name or not. I just finished Volume 2 this morning, and this is such an incredible series. I've only read these 2 volumes, but I love it so much. The art is gorgeous. I love the art so much. I spend so much time sitting there and just looking at the art. Try and find some more images. The title pages are gorgeous. I love the story. I mean, the covers are gorgeous. Who's the artist? Kamomi Shirahama. She is, sorry if I butchered her name, she is an incredible artist. I can't say enough good things about the series. The story is engaging. The characters are fantastic. And I can't wait to buy more. I can't wait to read more. Then the last book I got from the San Francisco airport was The Amazing Spider-Man. This is kind of it's kind of weird because there are Spider-Man comics inside, old Goes Stan Lee Spider-Man comics, but then there are also there's text. I don't know what this is. I think it's grouped into sections and chapters, or I don't really know, but it looked really cool, so I bought it. So next up, I'm going to show some English books that I bought in Japan. All of these are from Japan. I was able to find some cool bookstores that had English books. So I bought, first thing I got was this Hokusai manga. So volume 1, 2, and 3. So Hokusai is a famous Japanese woodblock artist, and he lived in like the 1800s in Japan, and he made these series of illustrations or these series of books that he called manga. And I believe manga translates to whimsical pictures. And I believe that was the first time in history the word manga was used. So these little books are collections of those manga books. So they're more like sketchbooks than they are actual comics, and I'm a huge fan of his art. Everyone has seen his classic, The Great Wave off of Kamigawa, I think, with Mount Fuji in the background, but everyone has seen that picture of the giant wave. That is something that Hokusai did, but he has made countless other pieces of art, and I love his art. So I was very excited to find these books. Then sticking with, I guess, woodblock printing books, I got this book, Ukiyo-e. That is the name of the woodblock prints. Here's the back of the book. This was more expensive than I wanted to buy. A lot of stuff in Japan is very cheap, especially from an American perspective, just because the yen is not as strong as the dollar. But because this was an English book, it was more expensive than a lot of the other books I was buying in Japanese. But this is a beautiful, beautiful book. As an artist or something, I studied art in college and I aspired to, I'd love to be a professional artist at one point and make my living through art. This is something that I want to read and also maybe like draw from, and something on my screen, and copy some of these drawings. So I love Japan. I love Japanese culture, and I can't wait to read this. Then I got another book about woodblock prints, Kuniyoshi. So I think this is another. I don't really know too much about this person. I don't know if you can pause it and actually read the back, but Utagawa Kuniyoshi. He was a ukiyo woodblock print artist, and I think he specialized in a certain kind of pictures. I think these sort of more spooky pictures. So this is a book of some of his art, basically. And just as I said with the previous book, I'm excited to not only read it, but maybe, draw from it, try and study some of these illustrations. I'd love to draw that. Like, that just looks like a lot of fun and something that'd be really cool. Yeah, so those are my sort of Japanese art books. Then I got Hidden in Japan, An Astonishing World of Thatched Villages, Ancient Shrines, and Primitive Forests. I don't know too much about this book. Based on the back, it's talking about, the documented decline of traditional landscapes of Japan. Excuse me. Here's the back of the book. Anyway, it just looked, I don't know, it looked interesting. I love buying books, not just manga, but just like in general. I love reading, and I'm just feel like anything can be interesting, and I just want to read everything I can find. Then I got The Gold Mask by Edogawa Rampo. I've heard about this mystery writer. He's a famous Japanese mystery writer. I've never read one of his books, so I figured I would give it a try. Then 100 more Japanese poems. I did actually read this while I was in Japan, and these are, they're not haikus. I think they're called tanakas. There are a different number of syllables, but I just found this incredibly beautiful. I loved these poems. After I read it, I ended up writing some of my own poems, not in Japanese, but in English while I was in Japan. So this was very inspiring. Then I got another Japanese novel, Tokyo Express by Seicho Matsumoto. I don't know. Again, I just saw the cover, saw these little blurbs, and based on the back, I thought, okay, this might be interesting. Also, it's pretty thin, so that was another reason I wanted to buy it. A lot of the novels I bought or a lot of the novels that they had at these bookstores were all Japanese writers, which makes sense because it's Japan. Then I got another novel, Snow Country. Is there Oh, I'm gonna take this. These are kind of annoying. Okay. Snow Country. Again, I just saw the back. Don't know anything about it. It's a short little novel. Hopefully, it's good to read. Hopefully, it'll be fun to read. Hopefully, it's good. Let's get this sticker off the back. There we go. Then another book, In Praise of Shadows. Once again, just read the back and thought this was going to be interesting. I almost bought the Tale of Genji while I was in Japan, but it was very thick and very expensive, so I decided not to. Then I got this book. It's bilingual, so there's the story. One page has a story in English, the other page has a story in Japanese. So I figured this would be really good practice for me. And then at the end of every story, there are almost like a dictionary. It shows the words and the meanings. So I figured, this would be helpful for my Japanese, learning journey. And one last book, Essays in Idleness. Once again, I just thought this was interesting. There was a girl I met in my Japanese class who was very interested in Buddhism and Zen, so that was kind of in my mind because I would talk to her all the time, and so that kind of inspired me to get this book. And again, it just seemed interesting. That's going to be the theme for this video. It seemed interesting. Okay, so now on to the manga. There's a lot to get through, and I have a list paper down here that has some of the English titles because I can't read kanji that well. So the first series that I got is Shadow Eliminators, Ruri Senki, and this series was recently in Shonen Jump. It was actually recently canceled, so it's only 3 volumes. I read it as it was coming out, and I kind of understand why it was canceled. I recognize some of the problems that it had, but I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool. I was a little disappointed that it was canceled. And it was a short 3-volume series. I found it in this little mom and pop bookstore in Japan, so I decided to buy it. Next up, I wanted to buy a shoujo series. I don't read a lot of shoujo manga, but there was a very cheap manga bookstore near where I was living in Kyoto, and they had really cheap manga for like 100 yen, like 300 yen, which translates to like 60 cents or like $1, $2. It was very cheap, and they would also sell sets of manga, like the entire series of One Piece or Hajime no Ippo, for like 10,000 yen, $100. It was unbelievable. Like, if I had more space, I would have bought everything. So I wanted to buy a shoujo series, so I found this small short volume shoujo series at this manga bookstore. I don't know anything about this. It's called Romance of Darkness. I believe the Japanese title translates to something along the lines of Flower on the Water, because I know this is the character for water, and that's the character Hana for flower. So all I saw was the cover of this first volume because they were all packaged together, and I don't know anything about it. It looks kind of cool. It looks interesting, and I just wanted to read a shoujo series. So I just no, I can't read these books yet. My Japanese is still not that good, but hopefully within a few years I'll be able to. Hopefully, some of these series have been translated online, and maybe I can read them online and compare the Japanese with the English and study a little bit that way. But yeah, so this just looked kind of cool, and even as I was flipping through it, it just looked interesting. And as with every book, I'm excited to read it. Then another series I got from that same manga bookstore was Bat the Gold, or Ogun Bat, and it's two volumes. I believe this is the full series. I'm almost positive this is the full series, but I think this. I'm a little confused because I think this character is I think there's sort of a media franchise behind this character, and I think there were television shows, maybe movies. So I don't know how the manga plays into it, whether it's whether the manga came first, second, or whatever. But I love old manga. I believe this is from like the '60s or something, and yeah, so like I don't know. There's something about this old style manga aesthetic that just really appeals to me. I believe this is he's supposed to be a superhero, even though he kind of looks like a supervillain. Either way, I still think it's very cool. Where am I going now? So one of my biggest finds, or thing I was very happy to find, was Harris no Kaze, or Harris's Wind. This is by Tetsuya Chiba, or Chiba Tetsuya, as it says in the books. And of course, Chiba Tetsuya sensei is the illustrator behind Ashita no Joe, which I would hope most manga and anime fans would know that series. Ashita no Joe is my favorite manga of all time. And this is a series that he wrote and illustrated himself right before Ashita no Joe. So this is from, I believe, 1956. As you can tell by the pages, all of the reason the manga was so cheap at this bookstore was they were all used, but they're still readable. But anyway, this character, about this little boy, I don't know too much about the story. I just saw Tetsuya Chiba's name on the cover, and I wanted to buy it because I love Ashton no Joe and I want to read more of his work. But the characters just look like it's kind of that same face syndrome. I'm trying to find a better picture, but it just looks like Joe Yabuki, especially the panel down here. It's not Ashton no Joe; it's a different manga, but it's a lot of his characters kind of look the same. I think this is about I think he's the kid's a delinquent and he just goes around and he tries out different like school clubs, like the baseball team, the kendo team, and other stuff like that. Okay, what's the next series I'm going to talk about? Okay, so the next series I'm going to talk about is a two-volume completed series called Riri Mu Kiss. Riri Mu Kiss, two volumes complete series, and this is by the same creator as Strawberry 100%, which is published in English, or at least most of the volumes were published in English. I do have the entire English set of Strawberry 100%, but I haven't read it yet. And I was interested in reading the series. I was planning on reading it online. I was thinking about at one point buying it off of eBay, but these volumes were so much cheaper in Japan. I don't know anything about the series. I did learn a few minutes ago when I was finding the English titles and Romanji for all these series so I could talk about them in the video, that I didn't realize that this series in Strawberry 100% was written by a woman. I just assumed based on the content of Strawberry 100% it was written by a man, but Go figure. Next series is another one that I bought at a mom and pop shop, and it's called Suri Spirits or Fishing Spirits. And I believe this is an adaptation of a video game called Fishing Spirits. This is from, I think, Koro Comics. Yeah, it says it at the top, which is a manga magazine that has, I think it's aimed for kids, or it has like video game adaptations. I want to say, I think Doraemon was published in that magazine. Maybe some of the Pokemon manga was published in that magazine. And as you can tell by the style of art, it's very cartoony, aimed at kids. And part of the reason I bought it was because it's aimed at kids. If you can see, the kanji has small characters right above it. That is called furigani. Furigana? The furogani. But anyway, it's the hiragana sounds for the katakana, or hiragana for the kanji, sorry. So you can read the Chinese characters, even if you don't recognize them, you can use the hiragana and sound it out. And because there are lots of kanji that I can't read, so it's helpful to me to have the furigana, furigani. I am mispronouncing that, but hopefully you understand what I'm talking about. Next series is Shukyu Shoujo, or it says football girl in English on the cover. This is a kind of an ecchi soccer series that I just found for very, very cheap. I believe it is a 10-volume series. I believe it's completed in Japan. Okay, well, I take that back. I know for a fact it's completed in Japan. And I got the first 4 volumes. I haven't read any of these books. I was buying lots of manga series that just basically looked cool. There were some series that I bought because I knew the names, but for the most part, I was just buying new books. Furigani. Maybe that's how you pronounce it. I'm still thinking about that. Okay. Then I got a Tezuka series called Majin Garon. I love Tezuka so much, and I found these books at like a little mom and pop store. The cashier, when I went to pay for the books, she was holding a little dog in her lap. It was very cute. I don't know. So I bought 2 volumes of this series, and that's all they had. I don't know if there are more. My anime list says it's a 5-volume series. So, and I know that these black cover, black volume, white spine Tezuka books, I think are reprints. So I don't know if, I'm assuming maybe there's more volumes because this seems kind of thin to fit 5 volumes worth of stuff in. But yeah, I don't exactly know. Based on the final picture in volume 2, I'm assuming the series continues. So I guess I'll have to find the rest of the volumes later. But yeah, I'm just a huge fan of Tezuka, and I'm sure I've said on other videos that if I see something of his that I don't have, I'm going to buy it. Next one is a sports manga that I was very excited to find called Little Hands. It is about handball. I have never heard this series. I just saw the front cover, thought it looked cool, and immediately grabbed all the volumes that the store had. It turns out, sadly, this is only a 3-volume series. I was hoping it would be a long-running series I could get into, but on the bright side, I now have the entire series, so that's pretty cool. I just saw a cool manga boy on the cover in a kind of a sports pose, and immediately I said to myself, I have to have that. I have to buy it. So I did. The art looks kind of cool. Handball. I don't know much. I don't know anything about handball, but this should be a fun read. Next series is Angel Heart. This is by the same creator who did City Hunter. What is his name? Tsukasa Hojo. Tsukasa Hojo. I don't know. This is, I think, a kind of a long-running series. This used manga bookstore, I believe I got these specific books for 100 yen. And they just had thousands of books. And I had to tell myself, don't buy them all. You're like, I barely got the books I purchased home. Like I barely fit them in my suitcase. So I only bought the first 2 volumes here, even though they had like the first 12 or something. I need to go and read City Hunter. I do own the entire Japanese set. I do have an entire Japanese set of City Hunter. Next up, I bought Triage X Volume 7. I have been buying this series recently over the last year or so, and as many people might know, some of the volumes 4, 5, and 7 are very expensive. I have managed to buy volumes 4 and 5. I spent way more money than I want to, but volume 7 is like $200 for an English copy. I saw it at the used bookstore for like 300 yen, and I thought, you know what? I'll buy a copy of it. So at least I have a physical copy of it. Yeah, it might be a while before I can actually read it, but I think the series is translated, scanned online, so I can buy this, add it to my collection, and then I won't feel so bad when I go and buy, volume 8 and, the rest of the volumes. Because I didn't want to buy the English volumes before I got volume 7, because in my mind, I don't know, it didn't fit. Especially when I was reading the series. I don't. This probably doesn't make any sense. But anyway, it's a very expensive volume, but I got a copy in Japanese. This is a fan service series for those who don't know. It's written and illustrated by the same artist who illustrated High School of the Dead, which probably explains a lot. Next series I'm going to talk about is one of my favorites, I loved it when I read a lot of it many years ago, Rikudo. This is I think a 23-volume boxing series, and I had to hold myself back, but I did buy the first 7 volumes. The manga bookstore had, I think, the first 17. These covers are beautiful, by the way. I absolutely love these covers. This is a very violent boxing manga. The way it starts is wild, and I love the art in this series. I think it's just fantastic. It's such a gritty boxing series, and it's just, I don't know how many volumes I read online, but in my memory, I read a lot of it. So I'm very excited to own some of the volumes, and it just reminds me that I should go back and finish reading this series. Okay. Now, I'm running out of space. Let's move these over here. The next series I got is called Valen the Black Iron. Valahallen the Black Iron. And this is written by the same guy who wrote Rikudo. This is another one of his series. And the reason I bought it was because I recognized the art style, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh, it's the same author. I want to give this series a try. I only got the first 2 volumes, and I only learned about a few minutes ago, before I made this video, that this is only a 6-volume series. So it seems like it got canceled. There's a Wikipedia page for this series, and it said that the series was praised for the art, but many people had mixed feelings about the actual story. So that's a little disappointing to hear, but I'm still glad to have it, and I'm looking forward to reading it. It kind of reminds me of Kingdom a little bit. But once again, like, I wish I could pronounce the artist's name, but he is such a good artist. I'm going to assume it's a guy, but just beautiful, beautiful covers. Then I got Hono no Tenkosei. Hono no Tenkosei, which translates to, according to Wikipedia, Blazing Transfer Student. I got volumes 1 and volume 2. Once again, they had a ton of volumes, and I just grabbed the first 2. Again, these were about 100 yen. Look at this, 100 yen for volume of manga. And I just flipped through this series, and I flipped through the volume at the store, and it looked insane. It just looked absolutely wild. Of course, the pictures I'm showing are not doing that justice, but let me find a more action-packed page. Maybe I'll try volume 2. But from what I could understand, it looks like this is a transfer student who goes around trying different sports. That's what I can understand, but I don't know. I just love this like art style and this like, I'm going to call it like 80s aesthetic, 80s manga aesthetic. It kind of reminds me of Saint Seiya in a way. I was thinking suspicion that this series is probably not scanned online, so I guess I'll have to, improve my Japanese. What's the next series we're going to talk about? Okay, I'm going to talk. Okay. So I did find, as I said, I found some bookstores that sold English books, and some of them sold English manga. So I got Spy Family Volume 1, Spy Family Volume 2. I've never read Spy Family before. I made a friend in Japan, and she said, she was Japanese, and she said that Spy Family was her favorite manga. So this was a series I've wanted to read for a long time. I think I've read like the first chapter or first couple chapters a year or 2 ago, but now I have the books. It's kind of weird to go to Japan and buy English manga, but whatever it takes. I also got let's do whatever. I also got some volumes of Doraemon, Volume 1, Volume 4, Volume 5. Doraemon is not a series I'm looking to like collect the entire thing of. The reason I bought it is it's in English and Japanese, and there's no furigana, so some of the kanji would be hard for me to read, but it's for kids, so the Japanese should be pretty simple. And I've started reading this first volume, and I can understand some of the Japanese, and of course having the English helps out a lot. Doraemon, it's just a classic series. I was in my Japanese class while I was in Japan, and my teacher was talking about Doraemon for some reason, and I just pulled out the manga from my backpack because I brought it to school because I like to read. I like to read during lunch because we had a lunch break, and I just pulled it out randomly, and she was like, "Hontou desu ka?" And it was just the funniest thing ever. Because she was not expecting me to pull out a Doraemon book, and at the end of the at the end of class, we were working on an assignment, and she looked at me and she's like, Henry-san, can I see the Doraemon book? And she told me that she used to watch the anime as a little girl in Japan, so she was clearly had all these memories of the manga and of the TV show. I've talked to other Japanese people about Doraemon, and they all remember it with like nostalgia. It's such a popular character. I got another English volume of manga, Black Butler. I've never read Black Butler before. I probably could have gotten it cheaper, not in Japan, but I don't know. It looks kind of cool. I figure it's worth buying a volume and giving it a try. Some other English volumes that I got was Shigeru Mizuki's Kitaro. I'm a huge fan of Shigeru Mizuki's manga. Another Kitaro volume. I personally like, I was going to say I like his Mizuki's history books more, like, what was it called? The history of Showa, history of Japan, and some of his other books. I read something recently. He wrote a book, like a biography of Adolf Hitler, which was very, very interesting. But I know he's known for his Yokai Kitaru series. But I just love his artwork. I love the cartooniness, and then like the background sometimes like just photorealistic. And it's just such an interesting style, and he has such an interesting story. Shigeru Mizuki, for people who don't know, he was in World War II. He was drafted and sent to some island in the Pacific. This was before he started his manga career, and based on the story that I heard, or that he talks about this in his Showa History of Japan book. He was sick, I think, with malaria. He was lying down, and all of a sudden the island was bombed by the Americans. And as he was lying there and this bombing was happening, he ended up losing one of his arms. So he survived. He goes back to Japan, and he starts drawing. And he only has one arm, and you can see photos of him online, and like his shirt sleeve is just like hanging down loosely, or he'll always be like leaning against the wall, so you can't tell that he only has one arm. But just an incredible figure, clearly an incredible artist and mangaka. I saw someone said, a translator of one of his books said something like, he's the most famous manga artist you've never heard of. And I love his manga. Then another series that I bought that I'm very excited to buy, Golago 13. This is volume 1 and volume 2, 3, and 4. They didn't have volume 5, or else I would have bought volume 5. Golago 13 is the longest running manga series of all time. It started in the 60s. It's still going strong. The artist, Biku Saito. Oh, hold on. Let me read this. Chito Tako. No, Saito Tako. Takio. Saito Takayo. I butchered his name so badly. He sadly he passed away a few years ago, so I feel especially bad about butchering his name. But the series is still going on. Despite his death, the series is still going on. He had a whole manga studio and team to help him write the series, help him, him illustrate the series. And it's about this guy, this assassin, and he just gets all these various jobs. And the series is published in English, but in Viz Media, basically, because it's like this series is currently 200 plus volumes, Viz Media did a best of compilation where they just published 13 volumes of like just random stories throughout the, what is it, 60-year history of this manga. I'm so excited to have this series. I have so much respect for the artist. Well, let me try and pronounce his name, for Saito Sensei. I'll just call him that. I would love to be able to, sit here to be fluent in Japanese and read it, and I would love to own the entire series. But, I'm happy to have these volumes. I'm especially happy to have the first volume. That is amazing to me. These are beautiful, beautiful books, and they didn't have volume 5, or else I would have gotten that. Then I also got this series, which is Onihei Hankacho. Hankacho. Once again, I probably butchered that. It's by the same artist as Golago 13. He had multiple series, or at least 2 series going on at the same time. And this series, this is a volume that I got at 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven sells manga in Japan. And it looks like kind of a collection. So it's not like a specific volume. So I don't know if the stories are not in chronological order. But I knew about this series. I'd never read it. So I think I bought this on like my second day in Japan. So I don't know too much about this series. I think out of all the manga I bought, I kind of regret buying this because I wish I would have bought tried to find an actual volume and not just this weird, collection thing. But I will hold on to it for now. Try and read it. I doubt this series is online. I don't know. I just don't think it's. I certainly don't think the entire thing is translated online. Okay, I am talking a lot, and we have 2 more stacks. Next up is a series that needs no introduction, Hajime no Ippo, 21, 22, and 23. I have tons of Hajime no Ippo volumes. It's one of my favorite manga series of all time. And the used manga bookstore had almost the entire set. Well, they were selling the entire set of the series, but then the individual volumes they were selling, they had quite a few, and I had to remember which ones I had and which ones I didn't. I wanted to buy a few volumes of the series because I do want to own the entire series of Hajime no Ippo. And spoiler, I guess. But the reason I bought these volumes is because this is his fight against Date. And I know that's a great moment in the series. So just 3 more volumes of Hajime no Ippo to add to my collection. Then the next series I got is called Nobunaga no Shefu. I got the first 5 volumes. As you can see, there's English, a chef of Nobunaga. The Wikipedia page for this series calls the title The Knife and Sword. The Knife and the Sword. So I'm very curious as to why they why that's the translation, because Nobunaga no Shifu, it sounds like the last characters are written in katakana, and so it sounds like that should be chef. So why it's, I don't know. I don't understand Wikipedia's English translation of that. But anyway, I don't know anything about the series. It just caught my eye on the shelf, and it's about a 30-volume series. I am so tired all of a sudden. It's like 2 a.m. in Japan. I got back from Japan yesterday, so I'm still jet lagged. So that's why I feel sleepy. Okay. It's like 1 p.m. in the afternoon right now, so 13-hour time difference. Anyway, I don't know anything about this series. It just, as I said before, it just looked cool. Also, I was watching a Netflix documentary series about Nobunaga. He was a samurai during the Sengoku period, I think. It was a warring states period in Japan. Japan, and Nobunaga was the samurai or daimyo who were, or shogun, who helped unite all of Japan. And there are other people that helped him, like Tokugawa Ieyasu, who eventually started the Tokugawa shogunate, which was during the Edo period of Japan, where Japan was isolated for about 200 years, and they chose not to allow foreigners into the country. I believe there was a small port in one part of Japan where they allowed, I think, the Dutch to trade with them. And based on what I had heard, I think they allowed only the Dutch into this port to trade. And I think part of the reason was because the Dutch weren't interested in bringing Christianity. They didn't have missionaries. They just wanted to exchange goods. So Japan had very limited interaction with foreigners during this period where the Tokugawa shogunate ruled Japan. And so for most Japanese during this period, they had no contact with the outside world. And again, Nobunaga was a samurai about 200 years ago who helped start this period, and he was killed before the Tokugawa shogunate started. Tokugawa Ieyasu was like Nobunaga's like right-hand man. And then when Nobunaga died, someone else took power, and then I forget his name. I should remember that. Tokugawa Ieyasu. I forget the other person's name, but eventually that person died or ended up being defeated by, I think, Tokugawa Ieyasu, who started the Tokugawa shogunate and everything that I just said. So anyway, based on watching that documentary series, I had this interest in Nobunaga, and the series, the covers, the spines, everything just looked really, really cool. So I bought it. Next up is Hinomaru Sumo. I think many people have heard of this series. Oh, cool! There's a double. This is a sumo manga that was in Weekly Shonen Jump. I think it ended a few years ago, so it's still fairly recent. I believe it was like 30 or 40 volumes. I think it was very popular in Japan. It had an anime, probably lots of other things, and as part of its media franchise. I started reading some of it online like a year or two ago. I think I got 2 or 3 volumes in, and then I just kind of stopped. I was only able to find 1 volume in Japan at that used bookstore. I would have liked to buy more. This series should be published in English. I know it does have a Western following, people who've read it online, who've seen the anime. So it'd be awesome if Viz could publish this in English, but for now I have this 1 volume. Then I got Zetman Volume 1 and Volume 2. I had to hold myself back. I wanted to buy more. These covers are gorgeous. And I don't know if you can see, but like there's like a pattern, there's like a texture to the cover. And even on the back, there's this like ring that like kind of catches the light. The manga artist who made this series, Masaka Kazu Katsura, he also created Eyes and I think Video Girl something. I've actually not read any of his work. I have most of the volumes of Eyes. I think I'm missing the last one, which is pretty, or maybe I'm missing 2 volumes. I have most of them in English, but I think volume 9 and 15 are very expensive for whatever reason. But this series just looks so cool. I'm disappointed it's not in English because it just looks so kick-ass. I think it's a superhero series or of some sort. Again, this just looks so cool, so different aesthetically from the other series that he has drawn. I especially want to read this, and I was really bummed to learn a few years ago that it was not available in English. Okay, we're almost done. We have Phoenix, Hinotori by Tezuka. I love Phoenix. I love Tezuka. I've already talked about that so much. At one of the bookstores that I went to that sold English books that I got a lot of other books from, they had the entire set of Phoenix in Japanese, and I really had to hold myself back. I wanted all of those books, but I decided, you know what, I need to buy at least one. I had the money, like I could have bought all of them, like financially that wasn't an issue for me. I'm very lucky, but space was the problem. So I just bought the first volume. It's huge too. I do have this volume in English. I believe the first volume is called Yamato. I might be wrong about that. I've not read the first volume. Maybe I said that a second ago. I don't remember. But Phoenix, if I could read this in Japanese, that would be amazing. But Phoenix is one of those series that I will, whatever someone is charging on eBay, I am willing to pay that price. I mean, within reason. But like, I want to read this series so bad. Like Viz, you have to reprint it. It's like, this is such an iconic series. People want to read it. Then I got a couple of manga magazines. This one is Weekly Shonen Magazine. Did I buy it because of the girl on the cover? No. Is that why I stopped and looked at it? Yes. Let's just be clear about that. But this was from 7-Eleven or a convenience store. And convenience stores, they tape the magazine closed so you can't look at it. But I pulled out my phone and I used Wikipedia and I looked at some series in the magazine, and there were some series that I wanted to read or I was excited about, like Hatchery no Ippo, and there were enough series in this magazine that I thought that piqued my interest, so I bought it. Then I got two, not volumes, but magazines of Weekly Shonen Jump. This one came with a one-piece like sleeve protector or little folder thing. This top part can be cut off, but I don't know if I want to use it, so I might just like keep it in the volume. This is 34. Everyone loves Weekly Shonen Jump. Here's a color page. I'm always surprised by like by the quality of these manga magazines. They're so cheap. It's amazing. Like, it's just kind of like the manga artists spend hours drawing manga, and then sometimes it's just hard to read. It's hard to see the illustrations. I don't know. It's an amazing industry for sure. And then the last thing for this video, my voice is about to fail, is another issue of Weekly Shonen Jump. I bought this one because this issue is has the final chapter of My Hero. And I also realized after I bought it that there is a Kuchikame one-shot. Kuchikame was that's the nickname of the series. There's a much longer name, but it was serialized. The series was serialized in Shonen Jump for 40 years, and it ended in, I believe, 2016. And there's a one-shot in this issue. Here's the final page of My Hero. I've yet to read the final chapter. I think I've yet to read the last 3 chapters. What manga is this? Oh, I know what that is. Okay. But yeah, I was reading some of the new chapters in Japan, new Weekly Shonen Jump chapters, and it was really cool. I was using the my phone for English, and then I was flipping through the actual magazine, and I was looking at the Japanese, and I was, I was reading some of the Japanese. It was, in a way, it was good practice, but it was just kind of cool to actually like kind of read it in the magazine and see like, oh, this is how people are in Japan are experiencing the manga. Okay, that's everything that I had. I've been talking for almost an hour. I hope you guys liked this video. I had a great time in Japan. As you can tell, I bought a lot of stuff. I made a lot of friends. I've still been texting people since I've been back home. It was an amazing experience. I hope you guys liked watching this video. I doubt anyone made it to the end of this video because no one watches these videos. But if you did, thank you so much. Arigatou gozaimasu.